So me and Chris are literally right on the beach. We're overlooking Fistral Beach in Newquay on BBC Sounds with a little bit of reflection.
Yeah.
Oh God.
I know, it's a bit of an odd one. So we went out and had some food, maybe a couple of drinks. And what we thought we would do is, because lately we've been talking a lot, haven't we? We've kind of... We've had so many discussions recently about all this kind of stuff that's happening in our own jobs and our own lives, and you can't help but be leaving Radio 1 and not get reflective about about everything that we've done, stuff before I've even joined the show, and like Radio 1 for you, and then both our lives as well. So we don't know if this is actually ever going to end up anywhere.
No.
But what we thought we'd do is we don't want any regrets, and actually we thought we'd just come to a beautiful cliff top here over Fistral Beach.
It's the best.
And chat, and let's see where this goes. And worst case scenario, no one ever sees this. But I think it's like or hears it, but it's like what we need to do, I feel.
Yeah, I feel like it's a bit of closure for us, you know, which me and Chris have done a little bit privately, but not really, because I think partly, for me anyway, I think I'm slightly in denial still.
Yeah.
And like the next 2 weeks is going to go by so fast.
Yeah.
And before you know it, we're not on Radio 1 anymore. And that's mad to me. And I'm not sure that I've addressed it in my head properly yet.
No.
Because everything's been quite busy lately.
Yeah.
And obviously we've known this is going to happen for a while. But I think on that last show, you know, I will probably be like, I don't know. Like, I think I might be a mess.
I don't know, and it sounds really sad to say. It's like I don't feel properly emotional yet.
No.
Which is a really weird thing to say, because we're both so...
Because we're still in it.
Because we're still in it, yeah.
We're like talking into radio microphones right now.
Yeah, exactly. So what we hope to do is be able to just talk to each other, try get everything out our system. Hopefully it is almost a bit of therapy for us.
Yeah.
And then I think one thing that's really struck us over the last few weeks is the amount of messages we've got from people that are wanting to wish as well, and then talk about what the show has meant to them.
Yeah.
So it feels like it's probably right that we do the same back, because often we share bits of our lives, but there's been stuff that we haven't always brought to the radio show, and we've had stuff on ourselves, and maybe this is a bit of an opportunity to kind of share some of that the same way people are trusting us to share how they feel and what the show has done for them.
On that as well, you know, like, thank you if you're listening to this and you've sent us a message, and we've literally had thousands of people saying, you know, our show and me on Radio 1 has literally soundtracked their whole life. And I never think of it like that, because, you know, when you do it every day and it's your job, you feel extremely lucky to work at Radio 1. But I don't feel like I've been on there 24 years. It's thundered by. But when people message you going, you've seen me through school and college and uni, and then I got married, and then I got divorced, and then I got married again, and you've been a constant through all of that every day, that is insane to me.
I think with this job, and it is a job in some ways, but it's like, it is our lives, it's not just a job, and we really care about it. But one thing that I think I can speak for both of us with is we have hard times sometimes, and like we've both been through stuff, like some quite heavy stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
And we've always been able to support each other in a personal sense, but like coming into the radio every day has been at times, like for me, and I think for you as well.
Yeah, it's like an escape.
Yeah, because sometimes we've had situations, like real personal situations, and
because if you've been on the radio that long, like for me, that's, if I'm lucky, that's a quarter of my life, right? at best on Radio 1. Stuff's going to happen in that time. People are going to die. People are going to be born. People are, stuff is going to happen. You're going to break up with people. You're going to get with new people, like whatever. That all happens, but you're still on the radio every day.
Yeah.
But me and you in particular have been through some amazing times, but actually some very hard times too. But the radio with you has been my sanctuary,
Yeah, I agree. And
because you can go in there and you actually can forget about it ish for 3 hours, or we get there before and we prepare and blah blah, but we always focus.
Yeah, we do.
And we always try and do the best show. It doesn't always work out like that, because if you're on the radio 5-6 days a week, not every show is going to be your best show, but we always aim to do a good show. And that's what I'm also proud of with you, that I think I've instilled that in you, that you're only as good as your last show, and let's try and make this show better. And you're so good at that. But going back to what I was saying, it's been a real help to me sometimes when things are tough,
That's a bit of a weird one. Like, when we're in the studio, we don't actually discuss personal things.
No.
It's weird. We talk about personal things outside of the studio.
Yeah.
People might have this perception that when the songs are playing, we're talking in a different way. It's like, okay, well, obviously we're talking, but we actually don't burden the show with our personal stuff.
I always say this, and it sounds a bit like arty-farty and a bit wank, but actually, we are real friends, and what you hear is real, but it is in a way a performance. Imagine if I went on air and I was like, imagine if I burdened everybody with my troubles every day in between Joel Corey and Becky Hill. No one wants to hear that.
Yeah.
It's actually a welcome escape, and radio should always be a glossy, happy, sunny place. Yeah, you can be in a bad mood, but I don't know about you, like some of the stuff that we've been through together off air, I we share so much of our lives on the radio, man, and some of it is not, it is private.
Yeah, and that's actually okay,
and that's fine.
And I think there's a fine line between that and maybe stuff that, like, I don't want to leave Radio 1 with any regrets of things or like misunderstandings about why I did things, because I also, at time, 10 years at the most transformative time in my life is also a time where I probably look back and go, you shouldn't have been so scared, and you at times could have been more confident yourself.
Yeah, but that's all good in hindsight, I was the same. Like, when I joined Radio 1, I was like fully scared, because it was like, I never expected to get a job on Radio 1. I literally always knew I wanted to be on the radio from when I was like 5 or something mad, but I was quite happy just doing like local radio. So I did local radio in Southampton and Bristol, in Manchester, and I never in a million years thought that I would get on Radio 1. It was just one of those jobs that you don't get. It was like going, you're going to be going into space. Those jobs don't happen to people like me or you. So I had never even put Radio 1 into the equation of my life. So when it came up, I was just like, shit. I was fully scared. Sorry, I'm getting upset. But I'm so glad it did,
I'm still not sure this was a good idea.
No, I don't know now. Rubbish. Oh, it is like therapy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Woo! but for free.
I think I think on that, right, like, one thing that has always been really important to me has been I started Radio 1 as like a single lad, or you know, I was in a relationship and got single and I didn't.
Oh yes.
And
yes, you did.
but now I've got a family, and they're the best thing in my world. But even that for me was a weird one, because, you know,
well, you wouldn't know your wife if it wasn't for me.
that's true. Yeah, let's
rewind.
Let's
No, carry on.
So when
then we'll get to that.
No. I met my wife. And
Loads of people don't know this, by the way. Like, most people don't know this.
I met my wife dressed as Lady Gaga for Scott. So I met my wife. Scott had a book out, and he needed to promote it. So
I did.
What Scott would often do is, like, really last second, he'd go, Chris, can you just do this?
You
And
fancy coming round tonight?
I had quite a cavalier mindset in my life there, where I would just do everything, and it was like I was just trying to, you know, I was in a point in my life where I could, and I wanted to do that, because I thought if you just say yes to a lot of stuff, like, I don't know,
it works out fine for
that's
you.
what I was doing.
Yeah.
So Scott was like,
I need to promote my book.
We should.
Will you come round and do some videos?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that was it. So the book needed promoting.
Yeah.
So he didn't tell me until I got to his house that I needed to dress as Lady Gaga. Now my wife was like operating the camera and was involved.
Yes. So she used to work for the agent that I was with at the time. So
not as an agent, but
but she was working at the company.
Right.
So I think. So she was there. Was she taking photos and stuff? Or video?
I think it was like they were involved in coming up with the idea and all that sort of stuff.
So Ria met Chris while he was dressed as Lady Gaga in my house in North London.
Yeah.
Was that the first time you met her?
The first time I met her, and yeah. So I'm dressed as Lady Gaga. It's one of the funniest. Like, the thing is about Scott and I as well. Like, I laugh so hard with you, man. Like,
Same.
we genuinely, like,
All
I
the
think
time.
part of the reason, like, I do think we look young, considering, like, we're better. I think part of that, honestly, I think I will look back in life and go, because I laugh every day.
Yeah,
like,
every single day.
I genuinely laugh, and it's such a simple thing. Like, it's actually so simple. Like, and I don't know if everyone gets to do that, to, like, find something that makes them laugh every day. We so it's a long story, this. So anyway, dressed as Lady Gaga. I did we found it so funny recording this thing,
literally,
that we had to abandon the actual video that they were trying to make, and they ended up just putting up a load of outtakes of us basically recording.
Yeah.
It was so funny, man.
And now they've got 2 children.
Yeah. And I think, like, this is what I meant by saying I don't really want to have any regrets when we leave Radio 1. So, like, recently, a couple of years ago, and we didn't make a big thing about it on air, but when he was born, you know, I had this, I'm so happy I got to do it. Come on Radio 1 and announce that my little boy had been born.
It was so great.
The problem with that was, like, I was so happy and everything. I didn't really think about what I was saying. I said his name
you
was
were delirious.
Troy Bango Stark, as a bit of a joke, and then it started getting. But what people might not know, and I think a few people have picked up on it, is I do have 2 children, and so I also have a little girl who's 7, and she's called Erin, and she is the best. She's my best friend. She is just my absolute world, and Scott knows that as well. No, obviously. Yeah. But what I mean is, like, I'd never really talk about her on Radio 1. And I think when she was born, it was all a bit of a surprise for us. You know, we weren't
I remember you took me to, there's a pub right next to Radio 1 called the Crown and Scepter. And Chris was like, hey, do you fancy a drink after the show? And I was like, yeah, all right, yeah, cool. Because that's not unusual. Let's be honest. And then he was like, oh, what can I get you? And I was like, oh, have a large wine, please, my darling. And he's like, you might want to sit down for this. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, so, can I have a baby? And I'm like, I'm sorry. And I don't think you took, like, obviously, Ria knew because she was pregnant. But I don't think you told that many people then, had you?
No, we didn't. And then my little girl was born. And it was such a weird, it was a strange experience for me in my life, because we're on Radio 1 every day, and this is the biggest thing that's ever happened to me, and we should be talking about it. Like, we should be, we share things with the listeners, and this is an amazing thing. And it wasn't that it wasn't amazing.
No, but I tell you what it is, and it goes back to what we were saying before. If you share as much as we do, and we are, I think, pretty real on the radio, there's no harm in keeping something back for yourself, you know?
And I also think,
that's okay.
like, I felt new at Radio 1, and maybe there was a part of me which was a bit like, if you have a kid, you're not like... You're
old!
You're not this young lad, and like...
Yeah. And also, like, that was your thing, like I said earlier. It's like, oh, he's a young lad, he's from Watford, blah, blah, blah. And I think at the time, and this is no disrespect to anything, but I think at the time, maybe you just didn't feel comfortable with that. Because it's like, and that is a terrible thing, by the way, like, oh, I've had children, blah, blah, blah. But I totally get what you mean, because when I, you know, like, I remember 10 years ago going, literally 10 or more years ago going, this will be my last contract at Radio 1. Yeah. I'm too old. And not so much now, but back then, I really think there was a thing of like, oh God, I'm not young or cool enough if I've got a kid, or if I'm blah, 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 and I know it's bad to say, and that's pressure that was not put on us by Radio 1, by the way. It's pressure that we put on ourselves.
Yeah,
of like, you need to be young, you need to be cool. But then I quickly realised that if you were never cool, you'll never be uncool.
I think,
and that's why I'm still on.
Yeah, I think you're right. And this, do you know what the most liberating thing about saying this now is? Like, this is what so many of the guys who listen to our show, they've like. I look back on it, and I just don't want it to ever be confused that I didn't want to talk about it. That wasn't
Not
it
at all.
I'll tell you what it was I felt so scared that everyone, especially then, I felt would take the piss out of me.
Yeah.
But I was happy to be that guy, because I felt it gave me a place on Radio 1.
Yeah.
And I felt people could take the mick out of me, and I can accept that. Like, I was happy with that. That was what I'd set up for myself.
Why did you think people would take the piss?
But no, what I meant was, like, what I couldn't deal with is someone making a joke about my daughter, or feeling that they could message in about my daughter.
We've said,
or like,
me and you have talked about this privately. That's just protection.
Yeah.
Of protecting her.
Yeah, and I think that's what it was.
Okay.
And also, I saw things from, like, other presenters that were there who'd had kids, and like, there was like paps outside work, and they I don't know, I don't want to name the presenters, but I know that wasn't going to be me, because I'm not in tabloid papers and things.
But it's the unknown.
That was it. I was just scared that if I bring her into this world that we all share with the radio show, and we do all share it every day, that she's then, in a way, fair game to be talked about.
And it also, you know, like, you were younger, it was a different scenario altogether, but it's the unknown. So, like, how do you know? It's all good in hindsight, isn't it? But how do you know at the time you're doing the right thing? You do not.
No, you don't.
You don't. I feel later already.
Yeah. But also, I really hope that people listen to this resonates in some ways. And, what do you want to what do you want to say to everyone listening? Like, how should we round this off? What do you want to say? What's the thing from this chat, or what's the what's the one thing that we want to kind of, whilst we're having this deep and meaningful, what's the one thing I think we really want to get across?
Just thank you so much, because I think, especially, like, it's easy to sit in London in Broadcasting House every day in your little box and be talking to each other, but when you go out to places like Newquay and you meet people and they tell you how much they love it, I think the reason they love it is because it's genuine friendship.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
I think so. And I guess
it's not like it's not forced.
Yeah.
And also, like, we're very different people, which I think also intrigues people, because we are very different.
Yeah, we are.
I'm a gay from Southampton. You're apparently straight. I'm from Watford.
What do you mean apparently straight?
No, you
that's
are.
that's
You've got
like
2 kids and a wife. But
that's almost throwing in another curveball.
Yeah,
that's
no, but
like,
it's trying to get the
like
clicks.
apparently straight. You can't say I'm apparently straight.
Clickbait. But we are very different people. But we are the best of friends, and that's why it works.
Do you know what I want to leave?
It's a weird pairing.
It's madness. There's a tractor over there, and they're clearing away the beaches and moving everything around. I
It's a
sort of love
sign.
it. It's so us. But look, before the sun goes down, I think the one thing I'd really like to get across here is, I really hope that people listening to this have these chats with their mates, because I can't tell you how much you, Scott, and being able to talk to you and be honest with you, let alone the work side of it, but I will never be able to, like, repay you for every one of those moments.
Need to repay me.
And what I would really like people to do that are listening to this is to try and have those conversations and try find. You don't necessarily need to come to Clifftop in Newquay,
No.
but maybe we should
Do it
leave
anywhere.
a little thing on the ground here for anyone that wants to come and have a chat. But honestly, I know we hear it a lot, but we don't often do it, is talk to your friends and try. We're lucky we get to do this every day, right? And you hear it on the radio. But we get a lot of messages from people that are going through a lot of stuff and have gone through a lot of stuff over the last 24 years. And some people get through it and some people don't. And it breaks my heart that that's the case. But one of the most amazing things, and maybe this is a bit self-indulgent, but one of the most amazing things about what we get to do is that we get the odd message here and there from someone where the show has just provided a bit of levity or a bit of lightness at a moment where they don't feel well or it feels dark.
Yeah.
And you like, in terms of any value of anything that you can have in life, there is nothing greater than that. So I would love
Sorry,
anyone
I'm
that's
such a
listening to
snotty
this. I would love anyone that's listening to this to go and talk to your mate and start these conversations if you haven't started them before. And I really hope it helps. And I hope if we can leave one thing with you and Radio 1 and our memory and everything like that, is maybe that one laugh or that one conversation can change everything for someone.
100%. And we know people that haven't done that, and it's been really sad. So yeah,
It was worth us doing though, man. And
like,
I love you.
I love you so much. Thank you. Oh, I can't get out of the chair. I'm too fat.
Well done, man.
I think it was worth it.